So we're going to now move to our mock review. I'm going to go through the briefing really quickly. So we're running a little behind and I really want to spend time on the review. The proposal is on our website. So on the conference website, briefing slides are there, conference is, and the report's there. Remember, this is an actual proposal. So treat it with respect and treat it as you would want your own proposal treated. It's not to be distributed. So again, we've already been through this, but when they review this, this is going to be the criteria that they talk about. This is going to be, the price is 1.2 million total, up to 4 years. Interdisciplinary team and contributions to at least 2 NSF science areas, plus a really important contribution in the biomedical. Again, these slides are on the conference website. So the big thing you're going to hear them start off with is intellectual merit. What is this contributing to science? So it's the first question is not does the health aspects and biomedical aspects make sense, but what's new, what's the technical or fundamental science innovations here. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about how is this creative, innovative. They're going to talk about how do we carry out the plan? Is there the right team here? Is this work? So they're going to do that. And we're also going to do the same thing on broader impacts. But in broader impacts, we're going to think about, like Amarda said, this is very different than NIH. Are you doing outreach? Are you supporting underrepresented groups? And these are usually the technical underrepresented groups, but you could make a case that in your biomedical domain, you don't have this group, and that would be good too. What are you doing for education? You know, how are you going to disseminate this data? What are you doing? There's so many opportunities in smart health, but we want to know how you're doing that. We're also going to talk about integration of the research and that, and so, but remember, it can't just be the health impact. I can't tell you how many people send a proposal with broader impacts that says, if we do this, it'll be really good in the treatment of X disease. That's not enough. This is NSF. So again, we're going to talk about these special criteria. And you also on the website, you'll see the review template we use. These are the additional documents so that when we're doing our thing, we will have the first reviewer especially will go through all of these criteria. Others will chime in on that. And actually, that's the way we do our reviews. The first reviewer goes through everything. Others keep adding information. This is the criteria that we're going to use on the NSF review. So, you know, it'll be excellent, an excellent proposal. You're thinking it's ready to be funded. Very good is again a good proposal, but it has some challenges. It has more challenges than excellent, but it's still really good. Good is good. I would say that's the one when Amarda says if you need somebody to be your champion, good's not enough to get a champion. Fair means there's real problems, and poor, those we're not going to be discussing. These are the categories we put them in for funding. Highly competitive, and my friend who uses the HGTV analysis, this is move-in ready. This is the house that you could buy today. Competitive is a house you could buy, but you got to update the kitchen some or the bathroom. But it's really good, it's solid, but there's some challenge. There's some things in there that are not quite clear. Low competitive has problems. It's going to need some upgrades in the housing market, right? It's going to need a couple of rooms redone. Not competitive is we need to tear it down. The lot might be good, but that's it. And triage are those we do not discuss in the panel. So proposals that are not rising above G in any reviewer's mind are often triaged. So this is the discussion that we use process. Like I said, the lead will start it off. Everybody's going to add. There is a scribe that will take notes, and we'll introduce that in a minute. And now I'm hoping that Maria is online and can she unmute? All right, let me start. Maria will add on the NIH stuff. But one thing I want to say, these proposals get reviewed at NSF. We've said this multiple times. But somebody like Maria is our coordinator with the Center for Scientific Review, and they are amazing. They are in these sessions. They moderate for NIH. So she's sitting there, she's taking notes, she's asking questions for NIH. So she's representing NIH in the review. When we get done with this and it gets a score and it's done, If it gets picked up by NIH, it does not get reviewed again. It's been reviewed once. It doesn't get reviewed a second time. So Maria will then manage a proposal that goes over to NIH. It has to go to the councils, has to go through all the systems. Yes. Okay. So as I've said, it doesn't get re-reviewed. It has to go through, it goes through the NIH program, through their systems, and then it gets, council has to approve it, but it doesn't get re-reviewed. It doesn't get rewritten. It gets sandwiched. And I think that's important because people are afraid they'll have to go through an NIH review afterwards. That's not what we're doing. We're doing one review with both agencies. So our criteria are slightly different, and we're gonna talk about that as we go. But what's important, this is the NIH scoring. So we try to think about, when we're doing this, we think about the NIH score. All of our reviewers should have an NIH score in their head. They get NIH instruction sheets, NSF instruction sheets. And when we get to the end, Maria will ask them, if she was here right now, hopefully we can get her on, but Maria would say, what is your NIH score? She'll talk about human subjects then. If we haven't discussed them enough, she'll talk about biohazards and things like that. So with that, I'm going to ask the panelists to come up. Okay, everyone. So we're going to begin our review. This is a proposal by the Harry Potter team at Hogwarts University. I had the proposal in front of me. I know the name. All right, well, it's all right. So the name of this proposal is it's New Machine Learning Frameworks for Precision Health, okay? And it's Harry Potter and team. So what we're going to do is we're starting off with Christina. Will be our lead. She's going to go through the whole proposal. She'll give us a brief description and then launch into the intellectual merit, broader impacts, and then the specific criteria. Shandong's going to go next. GQ will go next, and Amarda will be our scribe. She's going to be taking notes, and she will go last. At any point, any of my panelists can ask questions. So. Christina. Oh.
Okay. The objective of this project is to address the computational challenges in large-scale electronic anesthesia data mining, develop and validate an automated anesthesia risk prediction and decision support system to identify risk factors and detect patients at risk of post-operative complications and mortality. The main goal is to have the model monitor patients and identify those at high risk factors during preoperative or perioperative period. Thus, anesthesiologists can act on these patients before an event occurs to provide the precision health care. Oh, sorry. Earlier detection of the high-risk patients allows to institute appropriate interventions at the time when benefit is greatest. The proposal is broken down, has broken down the goal into several research tasks. The first one is to curate the data and do a matrix completion in order to ensure there's no missing data and the data is complete. The second is to design semi-supervised learning methods to predict the anesthesia risk using electronic health data. Third one is to identify clinical markers that act as risk factors for requiring post-operative complications. The fourth one is scale the machine learning models to large data sets. And the fifth is to lastly develop unsupervised learning methods. So first I'm going to give the strengths of the intellectual merit. So the first one is that the goal of in the conceptual deliverables of the project are described very clearly in the proposal. So by page 1, I already knew what their main goal was and what the specific aims were. Second, the data set that they have is very complete, and they have access to it, and they have experts that are have high knowledge of the data set. I felt like the goal was very innovative, and it has several significant public health repercussions. So I didn't have to think too hardly about what the benefits of this proposal was going to be if it was successful. There was a very broad investigative team that has comprehensive expertise in each of the areas that is needed for success of the project. Next, several innovative technical contributions, such as developing scalable machine learning approaches, and this was very good. And the deliverables were fairly clear. So the deliverables are essentially a multi-dimensional model that includes both genetic markers and features from electronic health data that is predictive of the necessity of post-operative care. Now there's some weaknesses, and I have actually quite a few. So some of the terminology was quite wordy and unclear. So there was a lot of adjectives for every single term. So this made it extremely unclear at times in understanding at a deeper level what the investigators were aiming to do. So I have an example here. The objective of this project is to address the computational challenges in this large-scale electronic anesthesia data mining, develop and validate an automated anesthesia risk prediction and decision support system to identify risk factors and detect patients at risk of post-operative complications and mortality. And that's only a part of the sentence. So it was very difficult to connect to the proposal, and I understood at a high level what they were attempting on doing, but at a deeper level, which I wanted to try to understand, it was very challenging because of some of the language. I felt some of the tasks were quite weak. So task 1, for example, was matrix completion. This is an extremely well-studied problem, and the description of the problem was not tied at all to the actual data. So it was just matrix completion. There was nothing specific about the actual data. There was nothing about the data it wasn't a problem that was integrated into the proposal. And the fact that it's such a well-studied problem made it very difficult to see what was going to be innovative in their approach. In fact, they were proposing to use expectation maximization, and EM has been applied multiple times to matrix completion. So I didn't see that there was anything novel there. There lacked a timeline for the development, implementation, and evaluation of the tasks. That was another one. The technical detail of the description of the task made it challenging to see what the quote unquote big picture is in each of the aims. So there is a lot of formula without a high level as to what the formula was telling me as a panelist or what was innovative. And there was quite a large investigative team. This was a plus, but what each one of the investigative team members were going to do, what their role was in the project was very tenuous. Most of the tasks were purely computational, and I think 3 of the members were actually not anything related to computational, it seemed. So it was unclear what they were going to do. There was no clear evaluation plan for each of the tasks. This was a major one for me. There needed to be a clear description of the competing methods, especially for things like matrix completion, where there's a lot of methods, a description of the data that would be used for evaluation, and a description of the metrics that would be used to evaluate. I didn't have the budget, so I didn't comment on that. Results prior to NSF or NIH. The description of the prior results related to NSF or NIH were was very, what do I want to say, sparse. But the title of the proposal seemed to be alluding to the fact that it may overlap with this proposal. So the description of the novelty of the proposed work was not very convincing that it was different from the proposed work. Okay, now for broader impacts. There was a number of different broader impacts goals. One of the, predominantly what they were going to do is do curriculum development. So as part of the proposals, the investigators were going to develop this interdisciplinary course called Computational Health Informatics for graduate students and senior undergraduate students. And they were going to choose research topics that were going to be course projects for each of the members of the students. And then the other objective that they were going to do was going to be to integrate undergraduate research into their program, and they were going to apply for an REU supplement if the proposal was going to be selected. And in particular, they said that they were going to recruit underrepresented and minorities. So the strengths of the broader impacts was the curriculum development was fairly multidisciplinary, and the investigators had demonstrated prior success in mentoring female and minority students. The weaknesses was that I didn't feel like it was very innovative. Particularly the course, it was just like health informatics, which a lot of institutions have courses in health informatics already. It's unlikely to impact students outside the institution. So the impact would be primarily just to the institution. They didn't state that they were going to actually disseminate their course materials. They stated that the project will, and this is in quotations, attract female and underrepresented minorities to explore the advances in computational technologies. However, I was a bit confused because there was no specific reason why this will attract female or underrepresented minority students. I didn't see that there was any specific plan to recruit female or minority students. They just stated that the area will attract female and minority students. There was no evaluation plan, and the broader impacts from the prior research was very broad, lacked specifics, and the description of the research outcomes was not very clear. And that's all I have. Sorry. That was quite long.
Do you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Starting from the summary and Zhang's weakness, the intellectual merit, I want to add on that in this proposal, they emphasize actually many times, they're trying to deal with large-scale data. They mentioned 2 million records. Initially, they have 2 million records available, and that will be developed into 200 million records in the project. So they mentioned several times. I think they were trying to highlight this number because the large-scale data is one of the challenges, the major challenge they wanted to address. And so I want to add on. I think the strengths part is that really it's a clinically significant problem if this all work out using this data to be able to predict the complications and mortalities, and think there's no doubt about that. In terms of the novelty of the methodology, because they actually use, I think, 6 or 7 pieces of technologies around data processing, pre-processing, and explainable AI and image retrieval. Some are like classic data mining questions. Some are fairly new, like explainable AIs. I think there's some good theoretical analysis for their methodology, which have, I think, obvious novelty there. And obviously, even we are not able to see the reference and the PI's real name, but from the writing, you can tell there is a strong track record from this team or this PIs that has a lot of relevant work. They cited many papers in their proposals. They have track record in this area of research. That gave us confidence that they have the expertise to perform some of the proposed work. Again, yeah, so that's, and another things I think this proposal is very well written in terms how they highlight or separate the different titles, subtitles, and components. It's very easy to find what you want, and that's a good part of that. Now the weakness, I think there are several additional weaknesses that I want to point out is that reading this proposal gave me the impression that it's all methodology are all good, but I would challenge that if you change they're saying they want to deal with anesthesia record or data. But I can see that if you change this anesthesia to different disease or different things, the most of the proposal will still work, or still hold. So I think that indicating that while this may be some of the methodology are more general, which is good, it's not bad. But on the other hand, I think this shows it still ties sort of a tightened relationship with how this methodology are actually really addressing the issues specific to the anesthesia problem. I think that's the part I'm missing here. And I can tell that maybe they do have anesthesiologists or the clinician on board, but it seems to be there's not too much in-depth communication between them. They may be on board, they write the things, and but that part I think is missing, or could be doing better. That's one comment. Another one is I think really related to this is that there's no clear definition of ending point of the model. Like you can do prediction this and that, but they never. I don't think I try to find, but they never define how do you define complications. Like in your model, what is the actual output? Right, complication can be in many different ways. How do you categorize this? Or mortality. There's different mortalities. Disease-free or all mortalities. These are more medical relevant questions. If you want to build a model, you got to first define this outcome, and then you build a model. And those information are not there. Additional reflecting that something are missing there. But I know. But once you have this in board or in the question, you can still run it. I'm just trying to say that in the proposal itself, this part is a weakness. I think. Another weakness is that I understand they're trying to do, analysis for large-scale data, a lot of data, 2 million, 200 million. But what that really this number means to us in terms of the computational cost and time efficiency, right? So it would be much better if you can provide some quantitative number, like if I run 2 million or 2 million records, I need like 5 hours or 3 weeks or something, some number there. So then that will be much more convincing to convince people, because sure to be their methodology they're talking about faster or quicker or time efficient AI training or learning. So, but if you don't give me this time, this number, I don't really know how fast this is. Are we changing from 2 minutes to 1 minute, or 1 hour to 10 minutes? This kind of quantitative numbers I think will be much helpful here, because right now we're just thinking of qualitatively. Okay, 2 million is a lot of number, 200 million is a lot of number, but it's not very specific. The last one. Oh, it's too much. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just worried about time.
Oh, okay. Okay. The last one is the section 5.3. They talk about asynchronous distributed learning there. So I think it's very nice algorithm. The thing that's not clear is that it's not clear they're going to collect the data for centralized analysis, or they're going to do distributed learning. Because if you do distributed learning on the 300 locations, that's a completely different setting. That you collect data first and then do centralized learning, right? But if you do centralized learning, getting the data first, then there's maybe no point to talk about distributed learning, right? So this part was missing. The algorithm itself is nice, but the actual context I think is not clear. That's.
All right,
Okay,
let's let,
okay.
no, JQ, want to go next?
Not much to add. I agree with the previous reviewers summarized very well of the general kind of strengths and weaknesses. I just want to emphasize that the actual overall picture, I think, would be the proposal could be enhanced by, does the data fit into the problem? Does the several proposed new methods help you get there? How do you measure the progress made? Those are actually questions when you read it, it's all over the place. I think that shows that there's a general, and I like to use this general kind of looseness or lack of rigor in tying different steps in the logical flow of the inference, how to get from A to B to C. So that's the basic kind of lack of detail and attention that I saw. But otherwise, it could be a very promising project.
Thank you. And Amarda, would you like to finish this up?
Yeah, I can just amplify 3 main points that I heard from you. And hopefully correct me if I'm wrong. My perception was also that the thrusts were disconnected. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thrusts. The proposal read like 5 proposals to me. So I have a concern that they're trying to do too much. The question, for instance, on distributed learning, that by itself can be a proposal, and it's completely unclear whether the distributed learning framework works or interacts with the data imputation, with the metrics completion. That might have been a very unique angle, but there's no connection there. I was completely unclear what exactly they're trying to predict. There's a very nice motivation in page 1 in general, but I don't understand what the whys are because there's no specific data, no specific evaluation, no specific metrics. The evaluation is pro forma to me. There is the sense that the PI is actually doing the whole proposal and the others are just there for moral support or project administration, because the proposal is purely computational and that PI seems to have the expertise, at least from what's written up in the collaboration, the management plan. On the broader impact, I don't agree that it has to be innovative. But I do agree that it wasn't clear that it would be impactful because it's not tied to a unique ecosystem. I don't know where this university is. Maybe there's great need for such a course in that university. Maybe they don't get many women undergraduate students, and this will make a huge impact, but there was no connection there that I could see. And finally, I don't agree that this was a well-written proposal. It was written in haste, there are incomplete sentences. I actually have an occasion where the same paragraph is copied twice. This was written in haste, which I did not appreciate. It made it very difficult for me as a reviewer to read. I had to read the proposal several times in order to try to understand what exactly they are trying to do. I have 2 questions for you that I didn't hear. I didn't hear any comments on the data management plan. I don't think there was a postdoctoral mentoring plan, but somebody correct me on it in case I missed it. Okay, and on the data management plan, did we have any concerns on that or any feedback?
I think overall it's reasonable, but it's, I can so overall I think it's reasonable to talk about the resources that we have from the local lab and then a computing center in this institution that they can leverage for that. I would say it was okay.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm hearing is it's an interesting proposal. Seems like there's a good team. The problem is important. There is potential innovation here, but there's some vagueness in the way it's written. The thrusts are disconnected. The metrics are completely absent. It seems like there's a real question, do we have the right data? What data do we have? Is it the right data? And what are the metrics, both from a biomedical perspective, but also from a technical perspective? Broader impacts, and those things seem like they could be improved, but the big concerns here are this vagueness in the proposal. So how would it, Christina, how would you rank this proposal?
I would rank it as good.
Good. And what would you rank it for from highly competitive to not competitive?
Low competitive, probably at the bottom, low competitive.
Okay. And then,
So, yeah, I understand this comment here. I would give this as a very good. I think, you know, as we said, there's no perfect proposal. I know there's a lot of weakness, but I still try to appreciate that some of the technical contributions could be helpful to address these issues if they are working together. So I still try to I still favor that part of it. So that's why I can give you the higher score that I have to give. The competitive, I would give competitive or high competitive. Just really competitive. Competitive second.
Yes, second.
Yes, second.
Yeah, my score would be good, fairly good, and also barely competitive.
Amarda?
My score is good to fair. I do not see this proposal as high competitive. It's not ready to be plastered on the NSF news. But I also do not see it as competitive because it is quite unlikely that if the PD, if Wendy reaches to the team, they will be able to address all the questions that we have raised today in 2 or 3 pages. I don't think they're ready. They need to go do summary thinking and come back for another review. And to me, that's the definition of low competitive.
So I was going to say, I guess I didn't get to justify. I think the reason why I put it into the good category and it doesn't rise to a very good, is that there was no evaluation plan. Like to me, I needed to see an evaluation plan in order for it to go to a very good.
Okay. Okay, so we would negotiate at this point, and we would work it through, and we would write a summary. Sorry. And at this point, Natalia would be here.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Sorry. So at this point, Natalia would be here, we would do an NIH score.
Hello, can you hear me?
We go around. The NIH scores would be quite correlated with the NSF scores.
Hello?
So this isn't going to be a 1 or a 2. It's going to be 4 or 5 or 6. 5. Okay, so I'm hearing 5. The thing that's important here, and I think what you've heard, I'm hoping this was useful when you were listening to it, but here's a team that's been around, they've done a lot. You know, you didn't get the references because I can't identify a reference list. But they didn't put the details in here to give us the proposal that they needed. There was too many questions from the team. You know, the evaluation plan, yes, you can do every disease if you don't have an evaluation plan, right? Because the evaluation plan and the metrics would have told us why this was so important for anesthesiology, but it's lacking. But the other things are, you can throw in all the technical detail, but if you're not pointing out why this is innovative, where this is innovative, where this is going to work, it's not going to do well in the past. So with that, I know we've already cut into the lunch hour, so I think when we come back, maybe we could do a few minutes for questions after the lunch break. Is that okay, Pegman?